Welcome back to the channel. What you're probably thinking is, Rugby Illuminati. England finally get their win against a difficult opponent in France. Where's the video? Where's the celebration? You've been there for all the losses. A loss to Ireland, many losses to New Zealand, a loss to South Africa, a loss to Australia, but you weren't there for the wins. Here's the real situation. I was busy that weekend. I was at a wedding. But, you know, I'll throw two videos in for one for you. What my analysis? France didn't play so good, and England played well for 20 minutes. You know what? They got a break. They got a bit of luck, and they got a win. I think it could be a sign for future improvements, future wins. But right now, let's not make too much of a big deal about it. And I'll see you at England-Scotland, where I'll be at the game, and I'll give you some heavy analysis then. But for this weekend, there's a different video. Yes, my controversial British and Irish Lines 2.0 has led me now to create British and Irish Lines 3.0. Plus, it's an off week for the Six Nations and it's a cheap way to get some content in. Please enjoy the video. Due to my controversial opinions of who I picked last week, I've added a new dynamic to the selection process this time. This time, not only do you have the player with the explanation, ooh, 2 for 1, but what you also get is a volatility rating that will come out like this. This volatility rating is meant to maybe qualm some of the controversial opinions that I have and the controversial selections. If the volatility rating is high, it's out of 10. If it's high, there's a high chance that this position is going to change again in and around the Lions tour. If it's low, that means there's less chance or no chance. I think I've only picked like 2 players with a 1, which will definitely be playing. Who's going to be in that? It's part of the surprise and part of the secret. But without further ado, it's the Rugby Illuminati British and Irish Lions Selection 3.0! So, start with the front row as always. Always start with the front row. Whenever you pick a team, you start with the front row, you build from the forwards backwards. Enough chit chat. Okay, Andrew Porter, number 1. No surprises here in the selection. Volatility rating of 5. Why 5? Why that mid rating of 5? Well, Andrew Porter is probably the breakaway loose head at the moment. He's playing excellently for Ireland. However, I do think Ellis Kench is having a bit of a renaissance playing for England. Schumann is coming off the bench and doing some good performances for Scotland. And I actually think the Thomases, I don't think they're brothers. They might be brothers. They're so unknown to me. But their actual scrummaging is actually pretty good. So there's an outside chance they get a shot in as well. Basically, Andrew Porter, probably more than likely going to be the loose head, but there's some good competition behind him. Andrew Porter picks up an injury or something like that, then there's good guys to come in and fill in behind. You're not trying to rush to bring Andrew Porter back necessarily. There's other big selections to come in. Not so much a hooker. With a volatility rating of 1, we've got Dan Sheehan coming in here. Excellent coming off the bench for Ireland against England. Still coming off the bench, recovering from his injury. But every time he's come off the bench, he's looked like the best hooker in all of British and Irishness. British and Welshness and Scottishness and Britishness. He's looked like the standout guy. There's no... Unless there's another ACL or an MCL or a shoulder or an elbow or a knee or a face that goes haywire, Dan Sheehan is your man. He is going to be the hooker for the British and Irish Lions. He's pretty much made every team. I'm saying that there's been 2 teams. He's made my 2 teams in team selection in terms of hooker. I don't think there's any question about anybody else in that position. Moving on to tight head prop without further ado. And it's Will Stuart again. a controversial selection last time. Oh, he's done it again. Can't stop me from doing it. Hey, look, Big Bear is a good player. He's a big guy. He's scrummaging excellently. I think he did a great job against Ireland, against Andrew Porter. He held his own. I think he almost out-scrummaged the French. He won penalty here and there from what I saw. And to be honest with you, there's no one really else kind of like putting their hand forward and saying, I'm the guy. Xander Fagerson, I thought, probably might be able to do that. Just realised the air freshener is still running. Sorry for that in the background. I realised Xander Fagerson has been playing well for Glasgow. He probably had more of a shout out. And I would say that I think Will Stuart being played at prop in my selection 2.0, I do think maybe Xander Fagerson probably should have been the tight selection there. Nevertheless, we're 2 weeks into the Six Nations, and I genuinely think Will Stuart is playing better than Xander Fagerson at this point. You know? And you know what? You got your opinions. I'm the front row aficionado. I'm the YouTuber, the rugby YouTuber who understands the front row. You don't understand shit, okay? I understand. And that's why Will Stewart's going to be playing prop, at tight head prop, and he will get selected by their Andy Farrell. Unless Tadhg Furlong comes back from injury in a steaming hot way. Sounded like I was talking about someone taking a shit on someone's chest. Don't worry, that's just where my mind goes. Nevertheless, Tadhg Furlong comes back, then that's why I've given this a volatility rating of 7. Because I feel like if Tadhg Furlong comes back and he plays well, the shirt's going to go to old Tadhg. And again, Xander could start playing better throughout the Six Nations and put a stamp on that shirt. Anyway, let's talk about second row selection. First second row selection, and I know I'm going to spark some people going off, but Maro Itoje, okay? I think he's been playing excellently. I think he's done well as captain as England, taking over for Jamie George. I think he's a hell of a force, a bit of a turnover machine at second row. A great tackler, gets around the park as well. Great in the line-out. I just think he's a bit of a standout, you know. And if you think about the other choices that there are, it's basically like Irish second rows, which I think there's an argument for a lot of them. But I will get into that when we talk about the other second row selection. But I think if you're thinking about Welsh second rows, Daffyd Jenkins, I think he had a good game against Italy, didn't play due to illness. Will Rowlands, I think Itoje is better. I think a lot of people would think that. And then we look at the Scottish second rows. Johnny Gray, you know, he's basically held together by sticky tape at this point. And Grant Gilchrist is basically just a big lumbering dude. I don't think he offers you too much in terms of loose ball like Maro Itoje does. Brings me on to the Irish second rows and brings me on to my next second row selection. And at the moment, it's going to be... Oh, crap. Volatility rating for Maro Itoje. 5. 5 out of 10. I think that's fair. Anyway, kept you in suspense for the other second row selection. Other second row selection, Tadhg Beirne. Volatility rating of 6. Playing great for a moment for Ireland. Does the little things that you don't notice, and sometimes the referee does notice, around the park. Big grafter. You need grafters in teams. You need guys that just, you know, they're glue guys. They keep things together, you know. They do the hard yards. They do the bits and pieces. They, you know, flick someone's nose inside of a ruck when people aren't looking. You just need those guys around there. And Tadhg Beirne is a perfect example of a player that's like that. High volatility rating. Why is there a high volatility rating? Well, I think James Ryan is also playing excellently in that Irish second row, along with Tadhg Beirne. But that's not the only player that can go in there. We've talked about the other options in terms of Daffyd Jenkins, maybe. You know, Johnny Gray, probably not. However, there's another guy, you know. There's a big dude, a big young dude.
Pause. That was crazy. Cam, we trying to be serious.
That also plays for Ireland, and he's currently injured. That's right, we're talking about Big Joe McCarthy. And I've got to be honest with you, if Joe McCarthy's playing fit, I think he's better than Tadhg Beirne, and I think he's better than Maro Itoje. But I think Maro Itoje is just a little bit better than Tadhg Beirne. Sue me, Irish. Sue me, okay? As of right now, I mean, Maro Itoje volatility rating of 5 out of 10 doesn't mean her safest spot. And Tadhg Beirne's volatility rating is 6 out of 10. So neither are safe. But really, I think this position's waiting for Joe McCarthy to come back and say, big boy's back, baby. Anyway, that's the second row selection, subject to change further into the competition if Joe McCarthy comes back and starts wrestling around. Okay, back rows. A lot of discussion here with back rows. Where to start? We'll start with the numbering order. We'll go with blindside flanker. So I'm picking someone here who's actually been playing open side for their country, but he's been playing so good that I feel like he has to be within this squad. And that's Rory Darge. Rory Darge, captaining Scotland. I think he's doing a great job in that back row. Turnover machine, also powerful ball runner, you know, great with ball in hand. And I think he can do the hard bruising stuff that the six can do. And if he can't, well, maybe that's going to change. And that's why I've gone with a volatility rating of 7 for him, right? So it's not just that he's not playing in position of what he currently does, but there's just so many back rows that can play in this position. So many back rows that can play at 7 as well. There's just so many selection options. I'll tell you who doesn't have a high volatility rating, however, and that is who I picked at number 8, and that's Caelan Doris. Now, Caelan Doris, why have I given him a volatility rating of 1? Simple reason. He's my British and Irish Lions captain, and I want him to play 80 minutes, want him to be on the park all the time, and there's no reason that he can't move to 6 if there's another 8 that's playing well. So, for example, you know, there's a lot of good 8s inside these squads at the moment. Aaron Wainwright, I think, is pretty good. Probably not the best selection. Jack Dempsey for Scotland, big, powerful ball carrier. I'd like this guy. He's a good guy. You should check him out. Tom Willis, I think, had a great first start against France as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think the options at 8 are a bit more varied and a lot more competition than at 6. But if there is someone that you want to bring in that 8 shirt, what I would say is I think the best solution is move Caelan Doris to 6 to have someone fill in with that more of that ball carrier in that 8 role. But yeah, Caelan Doris has got that volatility of 1 because he's going to be the captain and he should be the captain. Moving swiftly on to number 7. Many of you know, some of you know, I mean a few thousand of you know, it's not many. But anyway, I selected Jack Willis at number 7 in this position. I genuinely feel like recency bias is a thing, whether it's in selection or selection. And the fact that Jack Willis is left out of the Six Nations really kind of gets diminished a little bit in terms of his importance, because we get to see all these fine players play at international level and go, wowee, these guys are pretty cool. So for now, my 7th selection is Josh van der Flier. I think he's the standout 7, but there's so many players that could be playing here. Rory Darge, who I've already talked about and put in the 6 shirt, you know. Ben Earl, I think, had an excellent game at 7 with playing against France. And I think the Curry brothers, I think, have been standout in this competition so far as well. They've been really, really good, whether they play 7, 6, or maybe even 8. A rare 8 for Curry. Doesn't happen that often. What I'm saying is the options are there, the choices are there. That is, again, why I've given it a volatility rating of 7. Yeah. It's just the back row is just so much competition with it. And Caelan Doris is the only one that I think is going to be starting every single minute unless, God forbid, he gets injured because he's captain. So that 7 and 6 shirt, full-on gamble at the moment who's going to get him. But that's my selection in terms of who I'm going for in terms of 6 and 7 based on current form about what's going on right now. Moving on to the backs. So, backs. 9, let's just breeze through this because this is another easy selection. Same selection as I've made throughout the whole of my selections. I think I've picked him in both teams. Jamison Gibson-Park. Second best scrum half in the world, just behind Antoine Dupont, in my opinion. This should be his tournament. Lost no pace. I think that was the only thing that I was worried about probably like a year or 2 ago with him, thinking he's going to be 32 come British and Irish Lions tour. But he's lost none of it. Somehow shaving the head, I think, has given him an extra couple of MPH. I know all about that. So, yeah, I mean, he's having an excellent Six Nations again. 2 great games for him, both against England and Scotland. And, the only reason that I'm giving him a volatility rating of 3, so like not the top rating, is that I do have to say that Ben White is playing pretty great, and Alex Mitchell for England, I think, is playing out of his skin at the moment since his return from injury. But you got to remember the volatility rating I'm giving for Gibson-Park is 3. Like, I'm not saying 7, I'm saying 3. No matter how good Alex Mitchell's playing, Gibson-Park is just another level above him. And I think everyone can see that. It's plain to see. So that's who is the 9th selection. Fly half. Again, controversial one that I had last time with Marcus Smith in there. Not picking Finn Russell. Got into a nice debate with one of you out there about that. And I've thought about it a little bit more. It's not Marcus Smith. I don't think you could be picking Marcus Smith when he's not starting 10 for England, no matter what the reasoning is or the game plan or whatever. And it's not Finn Russell either. I still think Finn Russell's on not so good a run of form at the moment. I think he was hot and cold against Italy, and he obviously had that nasty head collision with Darcy Graham in the game against Ireland. So, I'm still waiting to see him being the standout 10. Knowing my luck, it's going to happen against England next weekend, and he'll destroy my team. Regardless, he's not done that yet, so we're going to have to pick somebody else. And in previous teams, I've said Prendergast, maybe sit him out of this British and Irish Lions tour, give him some time to develop. But Ireland have gone with him. They've gone full throttle. They've put him in. I think he struggled a little bit against England, but I have to say that England's defence, I think, would be a lot more intense than Australia's defence is. And at the same time, England's defence did kind of after 60 minutes disintegrate because I think the energy levels dropped. And that was roughly when Prendergast came off the pitch. So there's no saying if Prendergast had been left on the pitch, would he have been able to find those holes? Probably. Where he did find those holes, boy did he find them, was against Scotland. Excellent game. And, it might feel like it's a little bit of a recency bias pick. But, let's look at the fly halves around the patch at the moment, right? As I said, Marcus Smith not starting regularly. Finn Russell dip in form. Wales, I don't think they know what they're doing at fly half. They should be picking Anscombe because he's playing so well for Gloucester. And yet they're still playing somebody that plays centre for them week in, week out in the domestic rugby. And then that leaves an Irish fly half, really. Again, you could maybe pick Finn Smith for England, but that would be even more recency bias for basically having a good 20 minutes against France. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Given everything that I've said, I have given Sam Prendergast a volatility rating of 8. That's right, 8. Very, very volatile. This is for a lot of reasons. I think Finn Russell's probably a lot of people's favourites right now. I also think that, the English fan within me believes that we're going to see either Marcus or Finn Smith really kind of take control of some games. I honestly think, and this is kind of a bit of a tangent, that we've seen England finally break through and win against a good team. No matter, even if France were playing badly, I think it does a lot for them mentally. And I think we could see the best of England coming out for the rest of the Six Nations. There's also an equally, if not probably a better chance of them falling flat on their face. But at the same time, there's no doubt that England have some great fly halves to choose from. So, highly volatile position, but I think Prendergast has earned it for this point. And that's who I'm going to go for now. 11, winger. Easy, James Lowe. Don't know how I haven't been selecting him. I might have selected him in previous teams, but I think this Six Nations, I think James Lowe's reminded us how annoying he is if he's not playing for your team, but how unbelievably good he is, bias aside. Unbelievably good, powerful runner, looks for gaps, attacks the middle of the field, very intelligent rugby player, hell of a left boot on him, can bench press Eben Etzebeth in midair. What can you say about this guy? So many superlatives. Standout winger so far in the competition for me, and I think for a lot of people. Volatility rating, however, of 5, which is still kind of expect him to be starting. Maybe drop that to 4. Yeah, okay, we'll drop it to 4. Drop that volatility down to 4. Reason being is I think there's just so many good wingers across the patch, right? We'll talk about that when we talk about the next winger, because I don't want to ruin who I've picked as the other winger. But yeah, that's the reason for the high volatility rating. Okay, inside centre. Quick and easy, Bundee Aki. I don't think there's too many arguments here with that selection. I think he's, obviously been the target for Ireland to get some go-forward ball. I think he got stuffed quite well with England, but then found himself intelligently in the right place at the right time. I'm thinking when he was on the side, on the wing, put himself in a position to just run over Marcus Smith. I think he's not just a big brute force. He's obviously very intelligent with plays like that. Great defensively, and will be able to give the fly half that he has power ball, However, big volatility rating on Bundee Aki, volatility of 8. And the big reason is because I think Tuipulotu on his day is a better player than Bundee Aki. I think he proved that kind of domestically before he tore his pec, but he's torn his pec, right? So at the moment, I'm just picking on the players that we have available to us. And I think Bundee Aki's been good enough to excel himself into that position. Make no mistakes. If I felt like Tuipulotu was going to be in that position, even as injured, I'd pick him. However, at the moment, Bundee Aki on form, I'd be like, yeah, chuck him in. But I feel like Tuipulotu needs 2-3 games, get himself back into the swing of things, back into the form that he was, and then I'd be like, great, okay, put Tuipulotu back in there. In terms of other inside centre options, I actually think Ollie Lawrence has been excellent for England. Definitely third in that list, don't get me wrong, third in that list, but worth a mention. I think he played excellently against France. Really good game. A bit more muted game against Ireland. Is he enabled more by a more constructive not the right word, a formation-based distributor of the ball like Finn Smith? Don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But got to give Ollie Lawrence a shout-out in this position as well. 13, Huw Jones. Not a lot of other choices here for me. I'm saying that as though I'm there's not a wealth of choices. There are. Robbie Henshaw, Gary Ringrose, also great choices. But I can't go past, his 3 tries against Italy. And I just like the way he plays. He has that ability just to quickly step and then accelerate on a dime piece, even with his size. Excellent defensively, excellent attacking wise. There's no other, I've got to go with him. Henshaw, Ringrose have chances to take this shirt. That's why I think the volatility for Huw Jones is at a 6 out of 10 right now. Still up for debate. Ringrose struggling to get back into the Ireland team regularly since his injury. But, I think Ringrose, if he gets back in, plays that 13 shirt for Ireland, has some great games, I can see him taking the shirt from Huw Jones for sure. So, anticipation over for my second wing selection. And I'm going for the big boy, Duhan Van Der Merwe. I don't think I selected him in my previous teams, and any of those of you that have been paying attention to domestic rugby, I think you'd understand and agree with me that he's kind of been almost invisible for Edinburgh this year. Not great, not playing so good. But the moment he puts on that Scotland shirt, things change, don't they? I mean, every time he's touched the ball, even in the Ireland game, it just feels like he's electric, and the defence all of a sudden just gets this sense of, we've got to take this boy down instantly, otherwise he's going to be a trouble for us, right? But he's still stand out. He's still got the pace. He's still got the size, obviously. The dude, he's an obvious choice for me at the moment. But again, high volatility rating of 6 for me. Much more volatility rating than James Lowe. I feel like James Lowe's playing better than Van Der Merwe. But, there's a lot of players that could be taking Van Der Merwe's place that are great. Talking about some of these wingers. Darcy Graham obviously had the nasty head injury, but played excellently up until the point. And I think he offers you something a little bit different from James Lowe and Van Der Merwe, who are obviously very big wingers. Darcy Graham is a bit more smaller, slower centre of gravity, can change direction a bit more quickly. Mac Hansen, another great selection. And, the England wingers of Tommy Freeman and Ollie Slightholme, I think they played excellently against France. I think Tommy Freeman is an underrated player. Slightholme, I think, hasn't been within the England setup all the time, but when he's been picked, he's actually played very, very well. So they get shout-outs as well. Maybe they have a chance in this British and Irish Lions team. And finally, for 15, got to go for a biased homer pick. Sorry, guys, it's Marcus Smith. Look, I've only picked 2 Englishmen up until this point. Forgive me for this, okay? But I do think that Marcus Smith's performance of 15 against France showed his counter-attacking ability, what he can offer. And I think with a team against Australia, who will be hesitant to be playing territory all the time, that will be only kicking to like kind of get themselves out of trouble, Marcus Smith offers you a great opportunity at counter-attacking and can attack the line really, really well. He looks great from space. So, look, if I wasn't a homer, I'd probably be picking Blair Kinghorn here. But I don't think he's actually played that well for Scotland compared to how he plays for Toulouse. I think he's had a couple of off games. And Hugo Keelan seems to be the fullback that everyone forgets about. I don't forget about him. I think he's a great player. I just, sorry, Marcus Smith had to come in here for me. So, sue me. But yeah, interesting to see what's going forward. Players that I think have taken themselves out of contention, there's only one, it's Freddie Stuart. And I think, unfortunately, he's proven the last few times he's been selected, he's not got the pace. In defence, he gets stepped on. I'm thinking about that Gibson-Park try, which was a wonderful step, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think Stuart should have had that step put on him at all. So, yeah, that's my third revision of the British and Irish Lions. Let me know what you think. Comment in the comments. Let's debate. Has this volatility rating... Oh, Marcus Smith, volatility 9. Like, highly likely he won't be playing there. Let's be real before I carry on. However, volatility rating, has this helped you maybe understand my point of view? Maybe you're not going like, oh my God, why have you not picked my player? He's my favourite player. Oh my God, why can't you just pick my favourite player? Hopefully that has reduced that a little bit. And we can all just, understand that this is a fluid situation with lots of players getting picked at different places. And, to be honest, I think England could rise. England could rise. I think, depending on this Scotland game, there's going to be a lot of England players that could come into the team. I mean, look at this Venn diagram, yeah? You look at this Venn diagram and you don't tell me it doesn't make sense that England are going to win, like a lot of games, Look at it. It's been bubbling for a while. It all makes sense when you look at this diagram, okay? Anyway, that's enough silliness for me. Good to have an interlude in between weeks. And yeah, I will see you next week, possibly for a preview video, if I can be arsed. But it'll be England-Scotland, which I'll be at the game. And the Scottish can drink my English tears as we lose again. Anyway, see ya.